Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Meaningful Communication Show. I am your co host, Chad Eves, here with Michael Gansel and our guest, Clay Hicks. Hope you're having a great Friday as you're approaching the weekend. Here in the Chicagoland, we've got snow, about 3 inches so far, so hope it's a little warmer where you might be. Michael, you want to take a second to introduce Clay to our audience?
Well, hello everyone. Here I am in New York. Clay, where are you today?
I'm in Dayton, Ohio, small suburb
Nice.
on the south side.
All right. So the weather here in New York is sunny, although we're anticipating quite a bit of rain tomorrow, and I'm hoping for a sunny day on Sunday. What's it like in where you are in Dayton?
So it's about 50 degrees currently and cloudy or whatever. It's not bad. Not bad. Not bad.
Good. Well, I want to introduce Clay Hicks to our audience. Clay is an author and speaker. And here's an amazing thing about Clay. He's actually done 7,600 one-to-ones meetings with people since August of 2014. He's a word-of-mouth marketing specialist. Also happens to be a bourbon and cigar connoisseur, which I hope we ask you some questions about that. Married fellow with 5 children and 1 grandson. And Clay is an enterprising entrepreneur. He's basically steered 5 companies to success, and his journey began in 2018 with establishing H7 Network. And as I might just reveal, I am a member of H7 Networking, and I can say that Clay is rooted in his passion for uplifting underrepresented entrepreneurs and sales experts. He transforms the landscape of professional networking, fostering a culture of impactful connections and support among business professionals on a worldwide scale. Having been a networker myself for more years than I want to admit, I will say that Clay's perspective of networking is quite unique and very interesting, and I hope we get to talk more about it. So under his leadership, H7 Network has emerged as a premier B2B networking entity. It has a blend of in-person virtual platforms where professionals can build trusted relationships, create predictable results from their word-of-mouth marketing strategy. And I can tell you, if he's done 7,600 one-to-ones since 2014, he is relentless in his pursuit of innovation, venturing into global markets, driving initiatives for training, development, advanced retention strategies, and accelerating business growth and deepening professional relationships. And I'm interested here also to understand that you're in 47 states in the United States, including other countries like Canada, Australia, England, Croatia, El Salvador, Colombia, the Philippines, Italy, Ireland, and India. If I left out any countries, or there's more to come. So with Clay's leadership, H7 Network will continue to make its mark as a global networking powerhouse. So that's quite an introduction. So and quite the man too. So we're really glad to have you. And Chad, we got a question that's break the ice.
Kind of crack the hood a little bit on our guests and ourselves as well. So think about this for yourself, Michael. Clay, if you were on an island and you can only bring one movie to watch, what movie would you bring? You're on an island, say it's for a week or 2 weeks, whatever it is. You can only bring one thing to watch, one movie.
It's probably going to be Rocky.
Okay. And to tell us about your affinity for Rocky.
So I love his story, like the story of Rocky and the losses and the ability to continue getting back up and fighting. And I really relate to that. My favorite quote is life's not about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And actually, I need to iterate something. We actually started H7 in 08, so 16 years in business. And in those 16 years in business, we started the year of the 08, which was the financial meltdown. And then we experienced 12 years later the pandemic. And well, we survived it, we pivoted, and we're expanding globally. And that's what, that fight, that ability, that relentlessness, that never give up attitude, that's it. That's me.
I wish I could position my camera to show you. I actually have a piece of art in my office with that quote on it.
What?
Yeah. It's
Wow.
the world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place.
Yeah.
I don't care how tough you are. You, me, or nobody's going to get hit as hard as life, but it ain't how hard you hit. It's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Wow. You're the first person that I've connected with in all my one-to-ones and all the people I've known and still know that could relate to that quote, like in any way. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Awesome movie. Michael, what would your movie be?
Well, I'm a romantic. So, I Casablanca. And, I just love the quotes from that film. So Casablanca is high on my list. I love the ending where, he's walking out and he says, Louis, this could be the beginning of a great friendship. And that's the line that I love, because that talks about me as a person, because I really believe in friendship. And look, I'm not as young as I used to be. So they say as people get older, it gets harder to make friends. I found it gets easier to make friends. And I love making friends. And that's actually, how I relate is in networking is actually the joy of it is making new friends. So
cool.
That's my film.
Yeah. For me, I throw out there probably the Sons of Katie Elder, John Wayne Western, Dean Martin. It's just the quintessential like good versus bad, but also you get the second chance stories in there with Dean Martin, with his character, being somewhat of a drunkard, but also the reliable best friend. And just one of those movies I love to watch over and over again. But in any Rocky movie, pretty much, most any Arnold movie, there could be worse choices, I guess.
I'm just looking to have a VCR with me on the island, or something. We may not have internet, so
Yes, I don't know how we're going to do it. Actually, but picking up on the fight theme, I happen to love all the old fight movies. Like Raging Bull, and then there's a film with Marlon Brando. I Could Have Been a Contender. That film. I think that's On the Waterfront. But he's a boxer there, and I love all those old fighting movies. And and there's a look. You said you started in 2008. I went through some rough times too, and so on and so forth. And all I know is that you just have to pick yourself up and just keep moving on. You take a nut, you fall down, you get up. It's all simple as that.
Well, I think the other thing that all those movies have in common, though, you don't do it by yourself.
That's right.
You had the other people around you, and I'm going to use that as a segue into networking. In all these movies, they have their best friends, they have their their support people, the people that stand by them and stuff like that help them make things happen. So tell us about, you can go a lot of different ways in starting a business nowadays. Okay. What got you going in the networking direction?
Well, so back when I started it, just before I started, I have been to some other networking opportunities, and I didn't feel like I belonged in specific normalized networking that happens across America every day in every local town across America. And then I went to this one that's an international operation, and I just didn't feel welcome. And I'm an introvert. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm not going to feel comfortable to come out and do anything, at least back then, right?
Then in 2008, Clay, that was in person. There was no virtual networking, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And fun fact, when the pandemic hit, I'd only ever been on Zoom like 3 or 4 times, right? That was it. We had ran a couple of leadership meetings because we were growing in person. So I couldn't keep up with like the travel. And when we had to go virtual, I just turned on the Zoom and we'll figure it out. so kind of like what I did when I started, right? But yeah, so I got frustrated back then when I started it because I just didn't feel like I had a place. There was a place for me. So I created a place for people like me way back then. Now, why I still do it is 2 different things. So in 2014, I was getting married and I needed to, I needed to do something because I was a single parent for 7 years. I raised my biological daughters, 2 of them, for 7 years by myself. Now I'm getting married and I'm adding 3 bonus children and a wife. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So after meditation, prayer, and conversations with my wife, decided to do the journey of all those one-to-ones. So I started August 1st. The first time I started recording them. And that's transformed not only the community, but myself. Who I am now is not who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so.
No, that's a very interesting aspect when you say recording them too, because the area I work with people in is communication, with helping them with their communication skills and how it works with their leadership and strategies. And that's one of the first things I advise people to do as well, because we don't know how we come across necessarily. And to watch ourselves, it's kind of cringy. It's very awkward. It's like, oh, I look like that, or I have that habit where I'm always, doing something or whatever. So that's a really, powerful, tool for people to use.
Yeah.
So what was that? Where was the root of that inspiration? What were you doing before? So before 2008, what were you up to in terms of business? And what, then you started networking. You saw it wasn't your fit, and you actually started it. Now I want to get back to that in a minute. But so what inspired you?
Well, so I didn't finish college, so I'll take a step back and then I'll be able to share easily. But I didn't finish college, so my oldest biological daughter was born. I quit college. I went to work at AK Steel Mill. So I started my first business when I was 23. And so that was about 3.5 years in to working at the mill. And in one basic full season and a half, I was able to get myself out of the mill with that business. So I had a landscaping business. Then I got into real estate. Then I lost it all. then I kept going again, and then I got into financing and really the inspiration back then in that moment. I had connections all over the U.S. in the real estate and finance business, alternative financing for real estate back then. Mm-hmm. But I had no real connections locally, and so I wanted to build up more relationships locally. So that's really what inspired me. I was alone. My mom had just died. I had no siblings. My dad, he worked in a parts store. He's a manager. So it was like, I was alone, more or less, raising these 2 little girls. So what inspired me was to not do anything else alone, because in those previous businesses, I was doing too much alone. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. It's more or less the inspiration.
It's funny because I call a guy like you the accidental business owner, which is actually a guy like me.
Yeah.
And I am that accidental business owner. You wake up one day, you just basically say, this isn't working. This is not what I signed up for. And you go out and you do it. And you struggle, you fail, you make mistakes, but you keep picking yourself up.
Yeah.
And you go on. So, yeah. And I can understand that was not easy, as you said. You were doing it all alone, and yet you had to. So you personify that accidental business owner. And that's actually, as I see it, that's the bedrock of entrepreneurship.
I agree with that. And well, my first business was when I was 12. I had a lawn care business. I was a 9-year-old. I was a paper boy. So like all I ever knew was work, like blue collar, get in the mud, do the stuff. And that's all I ever knew. Like working at the mill, you know how dirty a steel mill is? Like I just did the work. I didn't think nothing of it. And so to be an entrepreneur, I mean, you have to have some rare traits. And so
what do you think those are?
Well, I have one. I didn't realize like that I had this rare trait. And that was tenacity to win. Like Rocky. Get up, Rocky. And that's all I know, right? Is tenacity, to never give up, to be willing to fail is a rare trait to have. A rare trait.
Well, I've got a question with you along those lines. So I'm similar. My first job was emptying trash cans at a mall. Had to paper out, worked McDonald's in high school, stuff like that.
Yeah.
With what you've seen in business in general and entrepreneurship specifically over what we're probably talking at least a generation, maybe two since when we were kids. I guess since we're kind of roughly the same age, probably. Yeah. What have you seen as far as the evolution, or dare I even say the de-evolution of entrepreneurship or business skills, and people that you encounter?
Well, lots of entrepreneurs, lots more entrepreneurs, right? Wanna be one, but their education doesn't allow for it to happen. Maybe they were in corporate America, and I see it so much. They want to do it, but it's hard. So I actually see a ton more entrepreneurs that, or professionals that are starting their own businesses. I see that really escalating over the last few years. Even before the pandemic, I saw that. But when the pandemic hit, that just shot up so many entrepreneurs. So with a little education, like they're smart, they went to school, they know what they're doing, they may be strategic, all of these things. But now they have to work really, really hard, because it's like I'm C-level at this company. I now no longer am C-level or at that company. And now I got to figure out things that I haven't had to experience. So I see a lot more of that, and I never want to devalue that. And I just see a lot of that escalating fast just in my world, coming across so many entrepreneurs in consulting and coaching and all these things that I see, fractionals, outsourced C-level. I see so many, and are so smart, so intelligent, so much background and all these great things. And with a little learning, they're going to go out and kick some butt. And so I see the type of entrepreneur evolving right now.
Yeah. Well, what I also, playing out that theme, you mentioned generations, they're in one meeting, 187 networking meeting, you've got a boomer, you've got a Gen X, you've got a millennial, you've got a Gen Y, you have a Gen Z. And that is changing the world of entrepreneurship, because, all of a sudden there are 5 generations. Boomers, look, I'm a man in my 70s. I'm a boomer, and I'm 77, no less. And and I'm still out there kicking, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a boomer. Then I'm talking to 2 guys who are maybe Gen X's right in front of me, and then they're millennials, Gen Y, Gen Z. So the word entrepreneur is totally different than it was when there weren't 5 generations all having the same title.
That's great. I see that too, Michael. Our youngest member is 21 in the virtual space. And
he's from Egypt, no less.
Well, no, there's one younger than him. He's 22. There's one. Yeah, you're talking about Youssef. I'm talking about Sierra. Boy, she gets so much business. She just does the thing. She learns. She wants to learn. She's a sponge. I mentor her. She asked me what books to read. Like, it is definitely very unique situation. Very unique situation.
So how does H7 foster that?
Well, relationships, right? So the first thing an entrepreneur needs is a trusted relationship in business.
That goes back to the fact that you were alone when you started.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And so because they need those relationships, they may not have those relationship building skills. I see that so often in my experience, that many people lack relationship building skills. And I feel like I've been called to provide that. And so that's what I want to provide. That's part of my purpose, right? To lift people up, value others, lift people up, unite them, take no credit for their success. So give them what they need. So all entrepreneurs, if you're doing business by yourself, it's going to be a long road, real long road.
Yeah, and I think even though we talk about you need other people, there's also is that element that it is you. Whether it's ultimately making decisions or living with those decisions, whatever it might be, you need the people that love you and support you and that you can do business with and stuff like that. But also it is a very lonely, experience at the same time, which I think people sometimes have a struggle with that as well, as far as understanding these dichotomies, that go on. Like, I'm an engineer by training. My undergrad's in engineering, very technical, solving the problems. But then when you come out of an industry like that, they don't emphasize those relationship skills. It's the problem solving skills. And it's like being able to cross, to bridge those gaps. I see a lot with people, especially coming out of, those more technical type of fields.
Yeah. So when Connect, Serve, and Ask was born, which took me 3,000 one-to-ones to build. Nobody wants to experience this, but I'll just tell you, my first 2,500 one-to-ones, I was not asking. It took me that many to figure it out. Okay.
What were you doing in those 2,500 one-to-ones?
I was connecting, I was serving, and then when I would ask them to do something, it would be to make sure they took care of the person I introduced them to and make sure they did a one-to-one with them. I basically found myself altruistically doing it, and all of a sudden I caught it and I was like, whoa, I could. And that's what happened. And so now Connect, Serve, and Ask is a method that professionals can use to build those relationships, and it keeps them out of the friend zone, because friends in business are not the same as a trusted relationship in business, right? They're not the same, and most people think.
What do you mean? Well, go deeper on that. I'm not sure I understand.
Well, so when I say a friend in business, this is somebody you may have a drink with, you may hang out with, you talk business, all that stuff is fine. That is fine to have. But the danger of that friend zone is the same danger in other areas of our lives when we're in the friend zone. But the point is that doesn't create very much predictability around leveraging that trusted relationship to grow your business. There's not always a guarantee that if me and Chad went to a bar and had a drink or a bourbon club or whatever, it does not mean that we're going to do business. Like, really, we could become friends though, that's for sure. So leveraging the Connect, Serve, and Ask method brings balance to that, and it supports both people having success, not just one or the other. That's what I mean by that.
So, clarifying question. When you say ask, Clay, now in the typical networking type of thing you hear, it's the ask for the buy or something like that. It sounds like it might be something a little different with your Connect, Serve, Ask. Can you clarify that?
Yeah. So that ask in this case, well, let's take a step back. Anytime you're networking, you should be trying to sell through the room, not to the room. So those people in front of you, if you value people, you will not do that. You will not go up and say, "Hi, Chad, how are you doing? My name's Clay. What do you do?" And then you're like, "What? Oh, I do this." And then I say, "This is what I do." And then I pound you for the next 10 minutes, right? Of, basically giving you communication you should buy from me. I'm basically objectifying you. I don't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
So if my mindset and my strategy is to sell through the room, then I'm going to value the person in front of me, Chad. And if I value the person in front of me, I'm going to take my time developing that relationship with them in front of me. And then I'm also going to ask them for help to a prospect, to a COI I may need, a strategic partner I may need, whatever it is, but it's my ask and I own it. And I have ownership in it. Does that clarify that for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think that's one of the things with a lot of people that, you start your first business. I know when I started my first business in 2003, got my business cards, all this stuff, went and joined the local chamber, went to the events, waiting for the jobs to fall out of the sky. And, it doesn't work like that. They want to see if you're going to last and come back. But, we've all been kind of victimized by the drive-by. Buy my widget, buy my widget, buy my widget. Then you never see the person again.
Yeah. I call it the business card bonanza. Business card bonanza. Yeah, it's like, "Hey, Michael, we just met, but will you take my card?" Well, what's your card? That card is nothing. It's an object. But Michael is a human being, and if I spend time with Michael and I value him, the card is going to be the last thing we talk about.
See, I'm going to add another concept for you, Clay. I don't know if you've thought about this one, but this is the word of I call it competition. Oh boy.
Are you about to say co-opetition?
Yes, sir. Co-opetition.
I love that word. Yeah.
I actually learned that a long time ago from a guy named Ray Norder, who was the founder of Novell. This goes back to the 90s, actually the late 80s. I don't want to date myself. And, so for me, I've been networking locally. I live in New York City, 4 minutes away from Times Square. So, city is my playground. And all the networking prior to the pandemic for years was all face-to-face in front of people. And typically those groups have there are no competitors. So if there's a group, it's one business consultant, there's one this. The only multiples you find are typically lawyers who have different disciplines.
Yeah.
Now, virtually in H7 and a variety of other virtual networks, all of a sudden there's a business coach, an executive coach, a life coach, a business consultant, a business therapist, a love coach, on and on and on, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you see each of those people as your competitors, it doesn't work. You have to basically see that as co-opetition. And that's a significant, I think, a significant tenet in H7 is that we embrace one another, as you said, as people, we embrace one another. And what we find in those relationships are those elements where that co-opetition can make you work with, not just be friends with a competitor, but actually work alongside a competitor. It's an interesting concept. And, it's really the basic tenet of when you find yourself multiple people doing the same thing.
Yeah. Well, when who you are is more valuable than what you do. And if that's the case, people change what they do. Business evolves. Like Michael, I'm sure your business has evolved from where it started. And so when people come in and they're like, "Well, how am I going to do with, somebody else that does what I do in the room?" You'll be in a different group, and people connect with people they want to connect with, not who you force them to connect with.
So what's one of the most important lessons you've learned? Now, each year, I'm sure you'll learn something. I can't ask you what's the most important because every year you're learning something. So, okay, let's say in 2008 when you started, what do you think? What was the lesson you learned then? And what's the lesson you've learned in 2023?
Okay, so in 2008, the lesson of don't do it by myself anymore, right? That's pretty clear. In 23. I don't know everything. So I need to surround myself with people that are in areas strong in their strengths where I am weak. And that's a lesson I learned last year. It was a big deal. So
Another question. What is the best bourbon and where did you have it?
oh, it's easy. It's always out of it's always out of Kentucky. It's always out of Kentucky. The best bourbon I've ever had is technically Angel's Envy Rye is my favorite bourbon, and it is almost a dessert bourbon. So that's probably my favorite. Yeah.
If you ever find yourself out west, because I know there's a West Coast chapter, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was at the Montage Resort in Laguna Beach at their restaurant there. They have a bacon bourbon.
Oh, okay.
That is the best bourbon I've ever had. It was part of a mixed drink called the Endeavor. And I was like, oh, can I just have like, I didn't know if I wanted, because they added lots of other stuff to it. They brought out the thimble and it's like, okay, it's all right. And then the table captain was like, hang on a second, try this. And it was just the bourbon. Yeah. And I was like, screw the drink. I just want the bourbon. I mean, it was just, the bacon was all on the back end, but it was just, if you haven't had bacon infused bourbon, it's something to try.
Yeah, I'm kind of weird when it comes to bourbon. Like, I don't like it when it's mixed with anything else. I'm not a what's the one that's hot that everybody drinks? It's escaping me right now.
Old fashioned.
Old fashioned, yeah. I tell you what's old fashioned: just straight bourbon, no ice, a little bit of alkaline water, and we're good to go.
Yeah, I happen to have a favorite. It's called Cooper's Daughter. It's actually made up in the Hudson Valley area, in upstate New York, and it's made with in barrels that have been tempered with black walnut and that nice flavor. So I happen to like bourbon. I'm a wine drinker myself, but that's another story. So so what's the challenge going forward? I mean, right now I think you've increased your membership significantly, right? How many members now? 1,200?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so what's your challenge? What are you looking to do in 2024?
Oh man, I got so many things I'm doing, and almost every one of them's a challenge. I'll tell you what, I'll talk about my book. I've never had a journal, and we're creating a journal. My wife actually helped me in creating this journal, and it's based on Connect, Serve, and Ask, and it's called Leverage. And you take it into your one-to-ones with you, and you take specific information, specific KPIs that lead you to understanding that you're earning trust with the person in front of you. And so my challenge is probably getting that out. That's going to be big. I've never really sold a product before, like a product. It's one thing to like give away, sell a swag or something, but this is something that's our very first product I've ever sold. I've always been in service. And so it's been a lot of fun, but that is challenging. That is big time challenging for me.
Yeah, that sounds great. That really does. Now, alongside that, you have the champions. Yeah. So I would imagine that journal, that leverage, those specific KPIs. Talk to us about the champions.
Okay, so champions, by definition in our community, is somebody who you have a very intentional relationship with, that you meet with a specific frequency for the purposes of opening up doors for each other, prospects for each other. Okay. And while taking all of our training, it leads you to those predictable results. That's a champion relationship. That is not the same as a referral partner. Not the same. It's a level up, because it's more like a referral partner relationship is very unpredictable at best. If me and Chad had a referral partnership, I'm basically waiting for the opportunity to get here. for me to say, hey, Chad, I finally got you a deal, right? I finally got you somebody. Here it is. A champion relationship says me and Chad are going to meet every month for 30 minutes. We're going to follow this connect, serve, and ask method. And we're both going to come prepared for our meetings to sit there and work and see who we can make introductions to that are who we're looking to meet with in the world of prospects. So we provide the agenda and all that stuff. But the point is that that's what a champion does. A champion helps you to create and fill up your pipeline with who you want to work with.
So that's your super COI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Sure.
Right.
Yeah, very cool. Well, we're getting close to kind of wrapping up here. Clay, anything you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up here? Something we haven't covered or touched yet?
I would say that if you're listening to this for the audience, I would tell you it's easy just to say don't give up. That's easy to communicate. But I would say it this way. If you really want something, your mind and your actions all have to match. You can't be doubting yourself. You can't have negative thoughts. Both of those have to align. So if your head's not in the game to win, don't get in the game.
Good advice. Good advice.
Good advice. So how about this, Chad? I'm sorry, Clay. What's a question you'd want to ask both Chad and I?
I would want to know why you do what you do.
Okay. Chad, you want to go first?
I don't know. I'll let the person with the longer hair follicles go first.
That's me. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm the only guy that has hair in this thing. You know, you can see no bald spots either. So not bad for a 77-year-old guy, huh? But so why I do what I do? I think life is all about being connected, involved, relevant, invested, and being in business for me has all of those qualities. And you know, I've done many different things in my lifetime, and I've had multiple careers, and I might have some more coming ahead of me. I think I will. But I really like being connected, invested, involved, and relevant. That's why I do what I do, and I get paid for it. Not a lot, but enough that makes me very happy. So
That's awesome.
that's my answer.
Thank you for sharing that.
For me, you know, like you said, things kind of change over time. The thing that always drove me into communication work was my dad would come home. He was a career Air Force officer working on the B-1 and be like, the engineers, the scientists can make this plane do amazing. Actually, we lived at Dayton. We lived at Wright-Patton when he did that. Wright-Patton did that. And he'd come home saying how these people can make the plane do amazing things, but they couldn't explain it. And so that's what kind of triggered the communication part of what I do. But the bigger part of why I do what I do is, you know, we have this one shot, however many trips around the sun that we have. And whatever brings us the sense of fulfillment, the sense of satisfaction of doing something that matters to us, because we get, you know, this is the ideal thing to do. You follow these steps, whatever. And then you learn that really that's what someone else wants you to do for them. And what do you want to do for you? And like you said, you have to be able to take that step off the cliff and have some confidence that you're either going to learn how to fly or fold a parachute or something on the way down, because you're not going to have all the answers as you go. And I think that does take a special type of confidence and, you know, willing to take risk. But if we don't do that, you're just kind of, you're living comfortably numb, you know, versus, you know, whatever that might be. You know, there is no one right answer, but what's the right answer for you, and really, pursuing it with everything that you got.
It's awesome.
There you go. Well, I'm glad you asked questions, make us think. So I've taken a look. We could go on and on. You know that. This has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed the conversation. So I think it's a wrap. It's really been remarkable. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person one of these days, and that would be great. In the meantime, I'd like to just say goodbye to the audience and say I'm signing off. Clay, Chad, last word.
I will say this, Michael. I'm coming to New York in October. I'd like to meet you then.
Be here.
Chad, I'm coming to Chicago in June. I'd like to meet you then.
Let's do it. And we'll include your contact information if people want to learn more and get in touch with you and learn more about H7 networking. Clay, thank you for being our guest. It's been a great conversation. Michael, as always, my co-host / loyal wingman and vice versa. It's been great doing another show together. We'll be back with our next episode. Clay, thank you again. Michael, stay dry in New York, and I will try to stay warm here in Chicago. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.